In today's video, you will come across the boy who was raised by wolves and the girl who befriended every animal in the wild. Let's start with the first one. TIPPI DEGRE. Not the same as our other entries, this one is one of its kind. Unlike others who were kidnapped or abandoned, TIPPI was so willing to live and be raised among the wild animals. TIPPI's parents decided to emigrate from France following her birth in 1990 and raise her in Namibia, a country rich in wildlife. When she became 1 year old, she found a new buddy, an elephant named Dabu, who became her best friend. Not just an elephant, TIPPI befriended ostriches, snakes, leopards, wild cats, and other animals. Even when her parents took her to the city to continue her education, she could not fit in there, and eventually they had to take her back to Namibia, where she spent some time until she was ready to go away from her friends. Girl raised by monkeys. Kidnapped as a child and then abandoned in the Colombian jungle, Marina Chapman came across capuchin monkeys. They took her in, and she learned to do things with them for 5 years. She copied what they ate, drank, socialized, and communicated. After 5 years, some hunters found her, who were quite surprised with what they saw. Well, they caught her and sent her to a brothel, which she escaped later in her life, and got to England, where she started her new life among humans. Raised by dogs. An 8-year-old girl was found in Ukraine. It kind of shocked everyone who came to know about this little girl, who had been found and then raised by dogs. At first, people thought it might be a prank, or that she might be faking it, but that wasn't the case. Malaya was found living in the family dog kennel in 1991, where she had been since her alcoholic parents left her outside one night. She was 3 years old at the time, and when she was left alone, she snuggled up with the farm's mongrels to keep warm, and she lived there for years without seeing another person. When she was found, it was evident that the dogs considered her one of their own, and they tried to prevent rescuers from removing her with severely underdeveloped social and emotional abilities. SUJIT KUMAR, India. When the kid showed dysfunctional behavior, the parents locked him in the chicken coop, and unfortunately, his father was murdered by someone, and not being able to bear this, his mother committed suicide. Well, it came to his grandfather to take care of him, but he thought it better to let him be locked in the chicken house still. He was about 8 years old when he was found by the people, clucking and flapping like a chicken. By spending years with chicken, he showed no human-like behavior at all, pecking on his food and making noises like chickens. He was taken to a nearby old house where he was tied to bedsheets for over 20 years. After years of being trained and taken care of, he lives quite a normal life now. Cambodian jungle girl. In January 2007, a dirty, naked, and terrified lady was discovered in Ratanakiri province, Cambodia. She was thought to be the daughter of a family from a nearby village who had vanished nearly 20 years before. She was 8 years old when she went missing, and it's believed that she survived for 20 years by befriending animals, including monkeys, as when found, she was walking like them. She struggled to adjust after being discovered, barely able to talk, and her family fought to keep a watch on her. She attempted to return to the jungle several times and removed her clothes each time they were placed on her. Her parents were able to keep her at home for several years while attempting to reintegrate her into society. But she went back into the forest in May 2010 and has not been located since. AMALA and KAMALA. They were allegedly discovered in 1920 by Reverend Joseph Singh, who had to hide in a tree above the den to save the girls. After the wolves departed, he observed 2 creatures exit the same cave. He was perplexed by what he was witnessing at first, and when he captured them, he couldn't tell if the entities were human or wolf. The 2 females would sleep cuddled up together, ripped their clothes, and howled like wolves. They couldn't talk, but they had a keen sense of smell, could see clearly in the dark, had great hearing, and they would only eat raw meat from a dish. Unfortunately, they fell ill and died, leaving the man wondering that it would have been better if he had just left them there. The Russian Bird Boy. A boy from Russia was found in a little apartment. Well, what shocked the people was that he was not alone, but with his 31-year-old mother, and both of them were in an apartment filled with bird cages, with dozens of birds living there. When he was found, he did not know how to speak, but chirped just like birds do, and just knew to wave his hands and arms like birds. He was taken to childcare and is there until now, learning to live his life normally. Kid raised by cats. In the winter of 2008, a 1-year-old boy was said to have been kept alive by stray cats on the streets of Argentina. This 1-year-old boy had been separated from his homeless father, who was somewhere looking for cardboard to sell so that he could at least get some food for them. The youngster was discovered safe in the hands, or should I say paws, of 8 stray cats by the Argentinian police. As the cops went closer to him in an attempt to save him, the vigilant cats grew more violent and protective. The cats had kept the small boy warm by licking him and laying down on top of him, allowing him to benefit from the warmth of their hair and bodies. When they went looking for food, the kind cats kept some for the toddler and delivered it to him. When the homeless guy reunited with his kid, he told the authorities that he was not shocked at all, because cats had always been fond of his small child. Dog boy from Chile. He was abandoned by his 16-year-old mother and spent some time not knowing where to go, before being adopted by a gang of dogs living in a cave near a Chilean port when he was 10 or 11. The dogs were like his family, and he drank milk from one of the females in the pack. They also hunted for food together, primarily in the port's trash. When the cops caught up with him, he tried to flee by diving into the ocean. He was rescued by a police officer. The youngster was depressed, hostile, and barked with no evidence of human contact. However, it was subsequently discovered that he spoke some Spanish. He could also sketch and was evidently aware of his human status, yet he still desired to be reunited with his canine companions. I'm not sure if they helped him by separating him from the rest of the flock, or just made it worse for him. SUJIT. SUJIT is maybe one of the most spectacular cases of wild children, or an adult, I guess. Anyway, she disappeared in the forest when she was 4 years old and was finally found 38 years later in 2012. For years, local villages had heard reports of a forest girl, but they rejected them as hearsay. She went lost near the Myanmar border in India and was subsequently discovered nude in a cemetery in Myanmar. But what is even more astonishing is that, for someone who has spent her whole existence in the forest, she was remarkably human-like. She could communicate, acquire new phrases, and was not afraid of human connection. Her family had refused to allow her to receive medical or psychiatric treatment. Therefore, there's no accurate assessment of her condition. Marcos Rodriguez Pantoja. After the death of his mother, little Marcos's father married another woman who treated him badly. So, in order to make things a little better for his kid, the father gave his 7-year-old son to a landowner, who then gave him to a goat herd from Sierra Morena as a helper. They lived together in a cave for a year until the goat herder died. The poor boy wandered aimlessly through the forest until one day he fell asleep next to some wolves with whom he had played before. When he woke up, he saw a female wolf who fed him and protected him like its own kids. However, when Marcos was 19 years old, the authorities discovered him. He was captured, and they were shocked to see that he behaved like wolves, howling and biting, so he was admitted to the hospital Convalescientes of the Foundation Vallejo in Madrid, where he learned to speak and behave decently. Victor de AVEYRON. Victor's story was portrayed in the 1969 film The Wild Child. He's believed to have spent his entire childhood in the forest and being raised by animals. How do you know this? Thanks to the 3 hunters who discovered him and spread the tale for us to know. When they captured the boy, he was naked and had feral behavior, scratching, biting, and emitting sounds only animals could hear. Victor was probably 8 or 9 years old when he ran away, but was found and taken back by humans. Due to him not being able to fit in, he tried running away again and again until eventually he was caught and tied by the humans for the appropriate treatment and was hospitalized for some time. A kind man looked after him and taught him so he might reintegrate with society. Unfortunately, Victor was unable to communicate and died as a non-civilized person at the age of 41. This is it for today, guys. Thank you for watching the video.